Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast. Gentlemen, boys and girls, back to the Sports Buffoons studios out here in Lenexa, Kansas. With us here, we have Tanner Dawson, as you just see on the screen, Mike Suttle-Runnin, and we got our boy JG and Troy, who are together at the moment. Where are you guys at?
We are in Springtown, Texas.
Nice.
Springtown, Texas.
Nice. So a little holiday get-together, I assume?
Yeah, we're celebrating. We're still doing Christmas, as a matter of fact. We haven't opened all of our presents yet.
Dang, Christmas is going to last like 4 days for you guys now. So exactly. I mean, that's cool, I guess. Just make a long extravaganza over the course of a whole week.
Yeah, man, that's a long week. I thought I had enough, too.
Yeah. Tanner, how was your Christmas, by the way?
It was good. It was busy, 4 days worth, but it ended up being pretty good, I think.
Yeah? Anything fun come up?
Actually, it's not in the camera shot, but, Mike, if you see that above my speaker, I got myself a 1985 Royals World Series little memorable plaque deal, so that's kind of cool.
Very nice.
Yeah, so funny story on that. So my mom actually bought one of those for my dad, and then she was going to get him something else, but ended up buying two of those. So my dad goes,
well, boom.
Merry Christmas.
There it is.
So I ended up getting the extra one, which is pretty cool. So
very nice.
Yeah. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, the girlfriend has a lot of family in town, so they all live out here, whether it's Lee Summit, Raytown, Overland Park, etc. And so I went to 4 houses in 2 days, doing all that. And my parents live in Colorado, so it's one of those deals where I just spent a lot of time hanging out with her family. But it's a great family, so it is all worth it. And it was a good old time, I'll say that. And a lot of music as well. Those of you that know her know she sings. So,
that's right.
Lots of music going on, and her whole family's pretty good at instruments in general, it seems like.
That's awesome.
But otherwise, I was just happy with December 26th, which was the Chiefs and Steelers game, obviously. So that's what I cared the most about over the course of the weekend, I would say. But with that said, we have a lot to talk about today, you guys. Obviously, we're going to play a little game here with you all as far as in or out, as far as playoff bubble teams, and as well as some topics about the Chiefs and what's going to happen with the absence of Clyde Edwards-Helaire once again. And then we're going to wrap it up today with a little NBA talk, Jason. Can you believe that?
Hey, I'm on the clock, right? You guys don't let me talk about the NBA until after Christmas Day. So
after Christmas.
I'm ready to go all in on the NBA.
Right, so you finally get your chance to have your plug at the end of the show now with the NBA, and we'll roll that up into January and February. And then, boom, after that, I mean, the games actually matter. Because after this point, they haven't mattered at all.
Well, they matter a little bit. I mean, you got your top 2 or 3 seeds that are out there doing their thing. And, they're positioning themselves for a late season run. So the games matter a little bit, but not as much as they do in March and April.
I see. The Lakers are under 500 right now, guys.
Correct.
Isn't that cool? We'll have to dive into that a little bit later, and you guys got to explain to me what's going on with that old man group over there going on in LA.
Yeah. So we'll dig into NBA here a little later here. Something I do want to touch base on, guys, is we lost a legend yesterday, the other day. John Madden passed away at 85. Kind of Mr. Football, right? It's kind of how we consider him. He was the Raiders coach for 10 seasons. He won a Super Bowl. Never had a losing season, ever, in his 10 season, which is, I think, kind of amazing there. Even after his coaching days, he went to color commentating, and, he won 16 sports Emmys as a colors commentator. We kind of know him with the commentation we're working with Pat Summerall and Al Michaels, both legends. On beyond that, and he also actually worked for all 4 major networks during his broadcasting career, which is kind of crazy to think about that he ended up all 4 major networks. But Pat and John, they got to call on 8 Super Bowls as well throughout their time together, which is nuts. Did you guys know that John Madden was drafted in the 21st round in 1958 of the Philadelphia Eagles. This is before they reduced all the rounds.
I feel like I knew nothing about him as a player, just purely coaching, and after that,
you know why that is? Because in training camp of that year, he ended up hurting his knee. Never played a snap in his professional career. The training camp injury killed his career.
Wow.
Which is kind of, and he was a offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of crazy stat to look at. And then we also know John Madden. He obviously the Madden games. Mike, you and myself at least. We play a lot of Madden going on. So I mean, John Madden, he partnered with EA to teach. His purpose was to teach everyday folks about football. It was more than just a video game. It was more than just a sport. It was more of a tool for everyone to use the game as, and it also was for testing plays as well.
Yeah,
which is kind of a cool thing. And I think they've kind of really progressed in that, but it's not used as much in that anymore.
You've seen players today come out and say that kind of stuff too. Even Patrick Mahomes has come out and talked about how playing the game actually helped him understand football better, than as he got older, and kind of that one of those kind of things. And same for me. It was a game that I started to really understand some of the details of the game through just playing Madden for countless hours late at night, and then going to school the next day all groggy and grouchy because I stayed up playing Madden for 7 hours in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
And, and so it's one of those things that the game these days isn't quite the same as it used to be, but maybe we'll figure that out one day and get that.
Kind of get back to maybe the purpose of it too. And then last thing, guys, or two things. So John Madden in '84, he created the All Madden team, and here's what he meant by the All Madden team. It's a whole range of things. For the defensive linemen and linebackers, it's about the Jack Youngblood playing with a busted leg, Lawrence Taylor wrecking havoc on the offense, Reggie White making the other guy wish he put a little bit more in the collection plate at church. So he was kind of all about rough and rowdy. He wanted the tough guys. He didn't want anybody major. And then finally, guys, he did hit the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the class of 2006. So, he was a legend that left us here. Big football guy, of course. And, we know a lot about him.
Yeah, we know John obviously was a Raiders coach, and I think he just about ripped down our Patrick Mahomes poster in the background and just started coming down all of a sudden.
There it is, the spirit.
The ghost of John Madden here to speaking and start trying to take down the Chiefs
as we again. Talk John Madden and then take down the Chiefs.
I don't know what that was, but that's all right.
Yeah, Jason.
I did have one thought on John Madden. Obviously, we know he was a legendary coach, legendary announcer, but the one thing that comes to my mind every single time I think about John Madden is the fact that he would never fly on an airplane. He had his own private bus. Mm-hmm. And I respect that because nobody wants to crash and burn. Nobody wants to go out like that. And that was his thing. He didn't want to fly on an airplane, and I respect that.
That's fair.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Very true.
I just love the fact that, but what I remember the most about him is all his sound effects. The guy was brilliant at it. He'd be calling a game, and he'd be like, after the play, he'd be drawing it up, and this lineman's got to get over here, and he's got to fill that, and then this running back's going to come through it,
and boom, pow, right at the middle.
Yeah,
about the sound effects.
And you got to make sure. I mean, since we're talking about Madden, if you guys have never seen it out there in YouTube land, you got to go listen to Frank Caliendo do his impression of John Madden, because as he does for all of his impressions, it's one of the best I've ever heard.
Agreed. So, RIP John Madden, you were a legend. Thank you for everything. Well, guys, let's get into it. Let's get into the NFL Wildcard here. We got a little game going in. I want to know your thoughts here. We're going to go. I want to know, you're in or is this team out? And I don't need a big description or anything. So we're going to take it by division here. Let's start with the easier one, I believe. So the NFC, guys, right now we got pretty much everything locked in but two spots. So the Packers, Cowboys, Rams, Bucks, and Cardinals have all locked in a playoff spot. Where they will be seated, nobody knows. But so we got two extra spots there. Right now, currently, the 49ers sit at the 6th seed. Eagles sit at the 7 after the Saints lost on Monday night to the Dolphins. Underneath that, you got the Vikings, Falcons, Saints. So we'll do a quick roundtable here. Mike, I'll start with you here. Mm-hmm. 49ers, they just took an L to the Titans. No Jimmy Garoppolo. He's out with, I believe, a thumb injury. They have the Texans this week. They have the Rams the week after that. In or out?
They're going to be in, but there's a reason for it. They play the Texans coming up this week, and so I like their odds in that game for sure. Week 18, they end up playing the Rams again. And here's the thing. They could go lose to the Rams. As long as they win one of the two games, then they're probably going to be in. So they're in for me.
Okay. Jason?
Yeah, the Niners are definitely in for me. As was stated, they do play the Houston Texans, so that should be a walkthrough. And I actually think they could beat the Rams in that last game, although they don't really need to do that, I don't think, because of the crappy teams that are behind them. So they are in.
Troy?
Yeah, I've got them in too. I just the laugher that I got to throw in while we're talking about them is that they, they're coming off of a. Don't forget the Texans, because they just beat the Chargers, which I have to laugh about. So
Embarrassed them. Yeah. I have the 49ers in as well. I think they've done enough through the season on that 6 seed that even if they lose one of these next two games, they'll go down to at least a 7. I think they've done enough. So, next one, guys, Eagles sitting in the 7th seed. They just beat the Giants. They have the football team this week and the Cowboys next. In or out, Mike?
Eagles actually look good too for me. I like them to go in right now.
All right.
They got Washington obviously this week, and then in week 18 here, as I pull up my little graph,
Cowboys.
you got the Cowboys. Thing is though, they can still lose that game and be in. So
That's
for me,
true.
the Eagles are going to be in on that 7th seed, sitting at 9-8 on the season.
Jason?
Yeah, they are out for me. And the main reason is because I just don't trust Jalen Hurts. And as you stated, they're at Washington, and then they host Dallas. But I could actually see them losing both of those games. But even if they win 1 out of 2, I got another team that we're going to mention later who I've got in, and I have the Eagles out.
All right. What do you got, Troy?
yeah, I'm out too. Brotherly love here. We're on the same page. They're going to go 0-2 these last final games.
Eagles are such a tough team, such an inconsistent team, but I'm gonna have them out. I'm gonna have them out on this one. I don't think they end up making the playoffs. So Mike obviously has his 2 playoffs teams in with the 49ers and Eagles. So now it's between us 3 here. So the Vikings is sitting at 8th seed. They just lost to the Rams. Once again, another one-possession game. I believe we're up to 14 straight games with the Vikings either losing or winning within a one-possession game, one-score game. They got the Packers this week, the Bears to finish out the season. In or out, Jason?
They're going to be out for me. Right now, they're the 8th seed. I think they can win 1 out of those last 2 games. But for me, they're going to be out. And Kirk Cousins has had a really good year.
He really has.
For Kirk Cousins. And so, unfortunately, I would like to see them make it, but it's not going to happen.
Troy?
Yeah, I got them out too. They mainly because Thielen is out for the rest of the season, and that's their number 1 offensive producer. So that's a big blow.
I actually got the Vikings in. I think they finish in the 7th seed. I think they take it to the Packers again, maybe lose, but I think they beat the Bears, just barely sneak in. They just have too many weapons on that team to not make the playoffs. Obviously, Zimmer's on the hot seat. We kind of discussed that as well. But I think the Vikings go in. So that's my 7th seed for the playoffs. Next up, we got the Falcons sitting at the 9th seed. They just beat the Lions. They got the Bills this week and the Saints next week to finish out the season. Jason, what do you got?
You just said it. They're playing the Bills and Saints. They are cooked.
Cooked. All right. Troy?
Yep, they're going 0-2 to finish out and lose a chance for the playoffs.
All right. Sounds good. Saints, final seed, or 10 seed. There's others below it, but they don't matter. They just lost to the Dolphins. Obviously, they didn't have Taysom Hill. They're missing a lot of key guys, against that Dolphins team. They get the Panthers, which is starting Zach Darnold this week. And then they, of course, finish with the Falcons as well, who is playoff contention. In or out, Jason?
The Saints are going to be in for me, and it's because of those last 2 games. But more importantly, as easy as those last 2 games are going to be, I feel like they're really fighting with the Philadelphia Eagles for that last spot. And for me, I just trust Sean Payton and Taysom Hill a little bit more than I trust Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. So I'm going with the Saints to be in that 7 seed.
All right. Troy?
I promise you, we don't agree on a lot as brothers, and we didn't talk this through before. But I'm with him. The Saints, just because of that schedule they've got, the last two, comparing them to the others that are on the bubble, they got a tougher schedule the last 2 games. Saints can win both of those.
It is a more favorable schedule going in, so we'll see here what happens in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to see these final 2 seeds start locking up. So let's move to the AFC, guys. So Chiefs are the only team right now to have clinched a playoff spot at least, currently standing the 1 seed. Then you got the Titans, Bengals, Bills, Colts, Patriots, Dolphins within the next 7 or next 6. Then you're on the outside looking in, you have the Chargers, Raiders, Ravens. Of course, the Steelers are there. We're not going to go to the Steelers because I'm really not concerned about those guys. So real quick here, I'm just going to start 8, 9, 10 to see if you guys can get those in. Chargers, are they in or out? Mike?
The Chargers are going to be in because they are actually still a good team despite a terrible defense. And the thing is, they got Denver coming up this week. They got to win that game no matter what. And then they get their last matchup against the Raiders, Week 18. And to me, it's one of those things where, you know, even if they go into this and they're not playing their A game, they're still playing the Raiders. So Eckler should be back from his COVID thing. So at that point, I feel like they're going to be in with wins over both Denver and Las Vegas.
All right. Jason?
I've got the Chargers out. They are currently the 9 seed. I do believe that they will go 1-1 in those last 2 games. But my big problem with the Chargers is they've been so inconsistent, as good as they are, and I can't trust their inconsistencies. So I've got them out.
Troy?
Yeah, I've got them in. They are the best team out of all of those bubble teams, and they've shown it. And again, going back to their schedule, when you compare their last 2 competitors versus Baltimore, Miami, and New England, Chargers are going to go 2-0, and that's the advantage. The other one's got a tougher schedule.
Okay, it's a tough one here, but I think they sneak in because I think it comes down to the Patriots, Dolphins on Week 18. That, you know, one of those 2 teams is not going to make the playoffs. So I think the Chargers are going to get in. So real quick, I know I went 8, but let's go 7 real quick. Dolphins. They just beat the Saints. Of course, they played against a rookie and completely dominated them. They have the Titans this week, the Patriots Week 18. And mind you, the Patriots are sitting at Week 6 with the Jaguars in Week 17 and the Dolphins Week 18. Is the Dolphins can the Dolphins get this final playoff spot, Mike?
No, they cannot. This is going to be where the streak ends for the Dolphins, and it's been a good run, and they have a great defense. That's fine. Tua's played well and all that, but as you mentioned, they're coming up against the Titans and the Patriots the last 2 weeks, and the thing is they need to win both of those games to be in here. And so even if the Dolphins go out and they get a victory over the Titans this week, that does not put them in the playoffs. They're still out, while according to my predictions, the Chargers would be in on that 7 seed. So Dolphins, even if they win this week, they got to win 2 in a row against 2 pretty good teams. So they are out.
Okay, Jason?
Yeah, I've actually got the Dolphins in, and it's not because they've won 7 games in a row. They could actually lose that next game at Tennessee. But when I look at that last game against New England, we all know that historically Miami plays New England very tough, and even if you've got the GOAT as your quarterback.
Especially at the last week.
And you look at those last few seeds there, if Miami just goes 1-1 and Baltimore, Chargers, and Pittsburgh also go 1-1, Miami's in. They control their own destiny. They are currently the number 7 seed. So for me, all they have to do is go 1-1, and they're going to make the playoffs. I've got them in.
Troy?
No, they are out like stout. They don't have a chance. Look, their last 7 games, yeah, they went on a streak, but look who they played. They played 1 team above 500, and they were only 1 game above 500. And their last 2 games, they're going to go 0-2. Why? Because they're playing a 10-5 team and a 9-6 team, and that's out of their league, so they're done.
Gotcha. I have them out as well, even though I'm really tempted to keep them in. I think they're out. I think the Chargers sneak in on that final 7 spot. And then we got the Raiders guys sitting at 9. Somehow they're still hanging around. They beat the Broncos last week. They got the Colts this week. And without Carson Wentz, sounds like Sam Ehlinger is going to be the starter for the Colts. But who cares? Jonathan Taylor's playing. And then they got the Chargers week 18. Can the Raiders somehow pull this off?
And get in the playoffs?
And sneak into the 7th seed.
That's not going to happen.
And I know you said early in the season, middle of the season, early in the season, the Raiders will be a playoff team. But I think there's just too much that have gone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was something I said, I think, back in October probably. But here you've seen as things played out, ever since the firing of John Gruden, that team has imploded. And so that's what changed the entire aspect of the way this team's ran from the top down. And so for me, that's whenever the Raiders were no longer going to be a quality team, and we've seen them crumble and fall apart as the year's gone on. They've gotten a couple wins here and there, but nothing to really write home about and look at them as a playoff team, especially when they're facing, as you said, they're the Colts and then the Chargers the last 2 weeks. I don't like their odds whatsoever.
Jason.
Yeah, the Raiders are a dumpster fire right now, and unfortunately, I know we have a lot of Raider fans that watch this show, so my apologies, because I think a lot of us had them as a wild card team when they started out their first 3 or 4 games in the season, and they were playing really well. But we all know what's going on now. They're trash and they're out.
Troy?
Yeah, they're not only a dumpster fire; it's a dumpster being hauled by a truck that's fallen off of a cliff. You look at the way they played against the Chiefs. It's just uninspired. They're not playing for anything, and without a leadership, it's just uninspired. That's all.
Yeah, I say cooked as well. I think the Raiders lose this week, and then they get kicked out of contention. So they're definitely the next ones off this list. Finally, guys, one of the hottest teams to begin the season, Ravens, come out of nowhere after all their injuries. Now they're sitting at the 10 seed. Lamar Jackson practiced today, but he did not look like he was Lamar, which is kind of troublesome, especially since they got the Rams this week, and then they finish out with the 49ers. Does this Ravens team, could these guys actually make the playoffs and somehow sneak in, or is there no chance? Bet down with the Raiders. Mike?
No, there's no chance. I mean, to me, there's no chance because of the rest of the division, the rest of the conference, I should say, and the way that's playing out. I mean, the Ravens, they found actually ways to win games and at least come close to winning with the absence of Lamar Jackson. So we've seen Huntley, obviously, and then Josh Johnson, I believe it was last week. And you've seen now it's kind of the system that helps Lamar Jackson quite a bit as far as the way he's able to get things done, because the offense hasn't been the problem. It's been a defensive issue for the Ravens lately, and all the injuries have really taken a toll as the year's gone on. But with you see the way this AFC is structured, and obviously we're putting in the Chargers, putting in the Patriots, and from there obviously putting in the Colts as well. There's no more room for the Ravens, and it's going to require a lot of other teams failing, and then them winning the last 2 games for them to be in.
Yeah, Jason, what do you got?
The Ravens are out for me. I mean, even if you can make a case that they're going to go 1-1, they're still going to be out because of my Miami Dolphins that none of you guys are believers in right now. But yeah, even if they beat Pittsburgh, if they get lucky and beats Pittsburgh, that's even a tough divisional game. I could easily see Baltimore losing both of those games to end the season, so they're out for me.
Troy?
Yeah, they're going to go 1-1. I think they lose to the Rams. They're playing both games at home, but I still think the Rams go in there and win. I think they'll beat the Steelers. The Steelers are also an uninspired team, but 1-1 isn't going to cut it with all the other teams on the bubble.
Yeah, I think they're cooked with all their injuries that's going on right now. Too late in the season, it's just not enough here. So something to take note here for Week 17 in the AFC. Every team that's actually in the playoffs currently, outside of the Patriots, are playing another potential playoff team, as in either the team's looking outwards in, but they're still in contention. You got the Titans with the Dolphins, Bengals with the Chiefs, which is going to be a great game, Bills, Falcons, Colts, Raiders. Patriots have the easy one with the Jags, and the Dolphins have the Titans. So the AFC, a couple of those games turn losses, things could get shaken up real quick here. So we'll have to keep an eye out to see exactly what happens, but sounds like there's still a lot of work to do. which is crazy towards the end of these 2 weeks here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's all I got for the wild card, guys. We'll touch base next week and see exactly how everything else is going.
By the way, we didn't mention yet, it's 2022 coming up in a couple days, so we got some poppers. It smells smoky in here. Boy. That was actually my celebration for the beatdown that the Chiefs gave the Steelers, though, as a matter of fact. So, the Chiefs-Steelers game was awesome. Obviously, we saw this past weekend. Sometimes I like an easy coasting game where you just go in right away, get up 21-0, whoop their ass, and then walk out and you're just done. It's an easy day at the ballpark, right?
That's right.
And so, obviously the Chiefs ended up losing Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a while. The good news is it was negative on the broken collarbone, so he will probably be back for the playoffs at some point, it sounds like.
Day to day.
But here's the thing, guys. We've now really, truly seen quite a bit of Derek Gore. And I think we've come to the conclusion now with Derek Gore that he's actually pretty good running back. And at least serviceable enough to replace a guy like Clyde,
yes,
especially in the receiving game, ground game, doesn't matter, can do either one. And so I'm looking forward to see the combo of Gore and Darrell Williams together now for the next couple of weeks. And, overall, I'm feeling good about the Chiefs right now, and got the game obviously coming up against the Bengals is not going to be easy, but it's a great way to finish out the season for regular season because they got the 1 seed right now, and that's what I care about.
Well, here's a playoff game, right, for the Chiefs right here. Bengals are your playoff game, essentially. This is your warm-up right here. You finally get a quarterback, a running back, and a pretty decent defense come into play here, some wideouts as well that are weapons. And now you got to take it to them. The last big quarterback we had was Justin Herbert we faced. Before that was Dak Prescott, and we beat the crap out of Dak Prescott. So, we'll see exactly how this defense goes here against the Bengals team that just put 525 yards up against a Ravens defense that we know isn't a bad Ravens defense by any means. So, it's going to be kind of interesting to see exactly what happens.
I will say one fun thing about the game before I let Jason say his comment here is that people a lot of times talk about Patrick Mahomes being a product of the talent around him. And now we got to see him go out, have a game without Travis Kelce and barely with a Tyreek Hill on the field. Went out there and dominated, playing one of his best games, really, he's played as a Chief. The efficiency, the way he rolled out, able to maneuver in the pocket, and just some of the throws he made was old, 2018 type of Mahomes kind of deal. And he made Byron Pringle look like all-star. And Byron Pringle's not bad, but, he's not necessarily your ideal or WR1, which is he ended up becoming that throughout the game because Tyreek Hill only played, I think it was less than 50% of the snaps.
Yeah, he wasn't out there that much. So, yeah, that was crazy. What you got, Jason?
Well, let's talk about Mahomes real quick before I give you my take. I want you all, if you haven't already seen it, to look at the headline on the Yahoo Fantasy Patrick Mahomes page. They have officially declared Patrick Mahomes as a game manager, and that's all he is, and that's all he'll ever be. So before I give you my take, I just want to let you guys know how trash some of the sports media is out there. We already knew that before, but they've taken it to a new level, and so you got to kind of block out some of the noise. But as far as the game against the Steelers, I'm just happy that guys who needed to show up actually showed up. So obviously, as you already stated, Derek Gore showed up. I think I saw some great things from Mecole Hardman, obviously Byron Pringle, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Thank God that injury was not serious. But all those guys showed up, and Tyreek Hill didn't really have to do that much. So the defense, they did what they do, and it wasn't really a walkthrough. I mean, I view the Steelers as a legit, team. I mean, they're not a great team, but they're a competitive team every single year. And so to be able to do that against the Steelers makes me happy as a Chiefs fan that they were able to get the job done.
Yeah, that's fair. Troy, you got any comments here on this game?
Hey, just real quick. First of all, that Yahoo thing that you were talking about, that's just not noise. That's not even white noise. That's brown noise because they're coming out of their butt. They don't know what they're talking about. I did actually want to see him stay in a little bit longer, frankly, just selfishly. I want to see him pad his stats, but because I'm watching him in the MVP race. But anyway, he's still up there. But I just want to comment two things. Agree with what all you guys said, but also props to the special teams. I mean, we had a backup practice squad punter, and basically the same thing with the kicker. Both of those guys came in and did fine, and so props to them. And also we won the turnover ratio. That's always big.
Yeah, and I think it's been since just before since the Titans game was the last time that we had more turnovers on offense than the defense caused. It's the last time. We've tied a couple times, of course, throughout the last few games, 10 games now. But since the Titans game was the last time that we had more turnovers on offense than the defense was able to take over. So props to that as well. We're trying to minimize the turnovers, and we always talk about it every week.
Yeah, speaking of that, Tanner, the Bengals coming up actually have had turnover issues, and so I think that their ratio is actually one of the lowest in the league as far as plus minus. I think they're negative somewhere in the -8 range or something like that. But so that's going to be something to watch out for, because obviously now lately, since the defense has turned it all around, now we're the ones making the turnovers, forcing the turnovers, and the offense has done better overall lately of not doing the bonehead plays compared to the beginning of the season. So that's something to watch out for. But the Bengals still do rank 13th in points allowed in the league, while the Chiefs rank 5th in points allowed. Obviously, since week, I would say 6 or 7, Chiefs have the best points allowed in the league. So obviously they've been doing their job lately, which is what matters the most. So this is going to be not an easy game, though, because Joe Burrow just had 525 passing yards this past week, which was only 30 away from the all-time record. And so that's not going to happen this week against the Chiefs, but he's still a real threat, and he's proving himself in year 2 to be a legitimate, true starting quarterback in the NFL who's going to be good for a long time. And he's got good weapons, too. T. Higgins has looked great, and, of course, Jamar Chase looks amazing as well. So, I mean, that's going to be a team offensively, at least, that's going to be there every single year competing with Patrick as far as toe-to-toe points scored and stuff like that. Now, they did add Trey Hendrickson on defense. They have 41 sacks on the year, so that is at the top of the league as far as that goes. And so protecting Mahomes, once again, will be the most important aspect of this game, but also they give up a lot of sacks too. So something to keep in mind with this game is that it's going to be a game of who's going to be the most efficient, who's going to play the most well-rounded game, and I guess I should say mentally sound kind of a game, because it's going to be a game of mistakes. It's going to be a game where you limit the mistakes. The team that has the fewest mistakes gets the victory in this one. So it should be high scoring, though. I'm thinking both teams score somewhere above 25 points.
Yeah, and they get Logan Wilson back, too, linebacker from COVID protocol, which is their best linebacker right now. So it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be a game of swag. I think it really comes down to being, I think who's going to have some bigger swag going into this game. Is it going to be the Chiefs offense or the Chiefs defense? Depends exactly who shows up there. And then Joe Burrow, we all know Joe Burrow with the cigar after the LSU victory. Guess what? He's here to do it again. Is this the first season? I think it's the first season that Joey Mixon has actually played full.
Probably. I mean, he hasn't really missed games.
Look how effective he is, though, too.
Well, sure, we've always known he has talent. It's just he's been on either bad Bengals teams or he gets injured every year. So it's one or the other.
Yeah, so that's another part of the talent pool on that offense right now going on. And that offense can explode at any moment, but they can also go to sleep and not show up for a whole entire game. It can be really inconsistent sometimes, especially against certain teams. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see. I think I'm with you, though. I think it's a high-scoring game. I think it stays both teams above 30. I think it ends up being a touchdown spread between the two. So that's kind of what my thoughts are going in this game. Jason, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game. The Chiefs are -5 right now in the odds. I don't necessarily want to bet that right now, but it will be a high-scoring game. For me, you got to slow down Joe Mixon. I don't know if Nick Bolton's going to be available. He is questionable right now. But you got to stop Joe Mixon. And we also need a big game from the Chiefs secondary because, as you stated, Mike, Joe Burrow, he's got the ability to sling it all over the field, and he's definitely got the weapons to do it. And then as far as our offense, Kelsey's coming back this week, but Tyreek Hill didn't really do a whole lot last week. So when I look at the offense, it's something that we want to see improvement from week to week. So even if it's just little improvements, this week versus last week. I think you're going to see a little bit better Chiefs offense against the Bengals this week. As far as Joe Burrow is concerned, he's got 14 interceptions on the season, but he didn't have any interceptions at all in the last 3 weeks. So you look at weeks 2 through 13, he actually averaged 1.3 interceptions a game. So looking at the last 3 weeks, if he hasn't thrown any picks, I feel like he's going to revert back to the mean there. He will throw 1 or 2 interceptions in this game. Obviously, he's going to have to sling it to be able to keep up with the Chiefs' offense. But I also think after throwing over 500 yards in that last game, his total yardage is going to come down as well against the stout Chiefs defense. So definitely think the Chiefs are going to win, but definitely wouldn't take them to cover that 5 points.
Gotcha. Troy, what you got?
Yeah, I'll be brief because you guys said it all spot on. I think you're right. I just, every time without going down rabbit holes, I always look at our opposition with where who they've played. And when you look at a 9-6 Cincinnati team, they have essentially one signature win on the season. They haven't played much at all against any tough teams. Or one, I should say. They've lost to some decent teams. But their signature win is twice against the Ravens, who is just an 8-7 team. Their signature loss, I should point out, though, is they lost to the Jets. So I don't think they're as good as their record says. And I think I agree with Mike. This game's going to be decided in the trenches. Our offensive line versus holding them back, and our defensive line putting pressure on their quarterback. So that's where it's going to be won, and we'll win it.
Yep. There you have it. There you have it, boys and girls. All right, Jason, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
It's time to get into the NBA. So go ahead and take us into the NBA, Jason.
Yeah, so first we got to quickly talk about the Lakers because everybody's complaining about wanting Frank Vogel to get fired. They want Russell Westbrook to get traded. Everybody seems to have a solution, right? It's an easy solution. So before I give you my take on the Lakers, I just wanted to go around real quick and ask you guys, what is your solution to fix the Los Angeles Lakers?
Well, here's the thing for the way I view the Lakers right now is that, they went out and they wanted to put together a super team, and they did that, but they put together an old man super team. They are the oldest team in the league, right?
They are.
And so that is going to obviously make an impact. But you put a bunch of guys together who at one point were all the stars of their teams in their prime of their career. Now they're all thrown together in this situation here. And we saw it back in the day with LeBron went to the Heat, and they struggled in the beginning of that whole thing. And they obviously turned it around and figured it out and won a couple championships, I believe. So, but the Lakers also are running into a situation where you got Russell Westbrook and LeBron and all the other superstars there. And it's hard to figure out who's going to be the one in control of this whole thing because it's a bunch of guys used to doing it on their own in some cases. And so I think that's part of the problem is that they need to figure out, maybe through coaching or whatever the case may be, of how to structurally, be selfless in that situation and just pick it up from there. Because I don't know if the age thing matters or not in the NBA with this situation because I don't think that they're bad players. I just think that there's something wrong with the strategy and the coaching going on.
Yeah, no, it's right up there with the coaching and strategy. But, you got Malik Monk, who's coming off the bench, which is kind of disappointing because he actually finished the year strong last year. I think you got to figure out a way to utilize him more. But that means maybe moving on from Russell Westbrook, which is kind of a shame. So it's a tough one there going for this year. You got Rajon back, right? Austin Reeves has been the replacement you need, but I don't know. There's just something missing on this one. I just can't pinpoint it.
Let's get back to the basics. The way I see it.
Yeah, and as you stated, Mike, they're a very old team. They're, in fact, the oldest team in NBA history by average age. And actually, if you took this roster and you played them as the Lakers, say, back in 2010, they'd win the championship every year. These are the best players from 2010.
Right.
Mostly, unfortunately, we're in 2022 almost, so that's not going to work. But Troy, what's your solution for the Lakers?
I mean, you ask for what you can do to fix them. They're not fixable for this season. I'm afraid they're going to be ending up, limping into the playoffs, focused on load management to get there, and they'll be a bottom seed to get in, and it's just not fixable. You've got their big three, which we know is the equation for all the successful teams. Their big three, LeBron is going to be LeBron, but he's not the LeBron we're used to at his age. You got Unibrow, who is just injured all the time. And then you got Westbrook, who was supposed to fill out the equation. And everywhere he's gone, he's just not chemistry. He has no chemistry to fit and help lead a team. That's just been proven where every team he's been on. So chemistry remains an issue with Westbrook, part of that big three.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Troy, as far as there not being a solution for this year. There is no solution for this year. The only solution is for the future. And, we've talked about this in football before, Mike, is that you gotta sell off your big piece. Well, the Lakers don't have a big piece to sell right now outside of AD. And so what are you going to get for Russell Westbrook? You're going to get nothing. You can't trade Westbrook. You can't really trade anybody except for maybe Talen Horton-Tucker. But they've got to wait until Anthony Davis gets healthy and starts playing well. Whether that's this year or next year, that's their big piece that they've got to try to move to try to get some value. And you may not see too much value from that over the next 2 to 3 years. But that's the only solution, and that solution is not going to materialize for probably another 2 to 4 years. So, unfortunately, for all you Lakers fans out there, you guys are trash. But LeBron is still the GOAT, right? We all agree on that. LeBron's the GOAT.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
Different
As
topic
long
for
as
a
we
different
got
day.
that
there,
out of
Grayson.
the way, that's all that matters. So,
That's right.
all right, guys. So we're going to
Maybe ESPN will hire you now.
They should. They should.
Just
because
say
I believe-
say LeBron's the GOAT, and boom, you're hired.
Yeah, because I believe in LeBron. All right, that's another story. So moving on, we're going to do some power rankings, guys, since we're after Christmas and we're kind of getting a feel for the NBA standings and what we need to look for as we move forward towards the playoffs. I want you guys to give me your power rankings, and we're going to start. I just want to go around, and I want to hear from number 5 to number 1. I don't care which conference they're in. Give me your best 5 teams in the NBA. So I'm going to start out, and then we'll go to you, Tanner. I'm going to start out with my number 5 team. For me, it's kind of between the Utah Jazz and the Chicago Bulls. And I'm going to go ahead and take Utah as the 5th best team in the league right now. And that's because of their experience. They've got a lot more experience. Although I like that Chicago Bulls roster a little bit better, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. I do like Utah a little bit better here because they've got that playoff experience. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and they're also the number 1 offense in the league. So they're averaging 116 points per game. Also have the 7th best defense in the league. So I've got the Utah Jazz at number 5. Tanner, go.
Number 5, Milwaukee Bucks. I just think that roster is way too deep, even though they're sitting at 3 right now in the Eastern. I put them above Chicago just for the fact that they got guys who've returned, and Giannis is still a beast out there, so he needs to improve his shot. So I'm going to go Milwaukee Bucks. That's my 5. Mike?
Yeah, and so it's kind of funny. We all have different answers here, but I was about to agree with Jason on this one, but I got the Bulls as my number 5 team. I like the streak they're on. I like they're getting hot right now, and obviously that offense is producing. So that's what matters the most at the moment. And also, you guys know I like the little point differential stat that's out there. That's always something I look at and care about, and they are towards the top, of course, in the Eastern Conference. So just stuff like that I like to look at this time of year, and those things play out over the course of the season and matter more then.
All right, Troy, what you got?
Yeah, I always have to have a zinger, a dark horse, because I'm basing these rankings off of who I think is going to be able to go into the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs, even though it's still halfway early in the season. So I'm throwing out a zinger, and it's Philadelphia. I got to have a Jayhawk into this, and I'm Joel Embiid fan, and they have the experience from previous seasons, and I know they're just a few games above 500 right now, but I think they're going to pick up the pace.
All right, I'll take that. Moving up to number 4, I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets, and they are the number 1 seed in the East right now. But when you look at their record, they're only the 4th best record in the NBA right now. Their offense and defensive rankings are just kind of mediocre. But the biggest problem for me with the Brooklyn Nets is their lack of continuity, because now they've come out and said that Kyrie Irving is only going to play in road games. He's going to play, but only in the road games. Well, that just creates a media circus. It's already created a circus since the beginning of the year. And then you've got James Harden, who's been playing better in those last couple of games. But prior to that, he wasn't really playing like James Harden. And so it's just lack of continuity, inconsistency. I know they've had a lot of COVID cases on that team, but I don't really trust the Nets this year. If you're just basing it on talent, yeah, of course, they're probably the best team in the league. But there's a lot of other factors to consider here. So I've got the Nets at number 4.
I got the Utah Jazz at number 4. So they're third in their Western Conference. I know they've also been kind of hit with the COVID bug. They have a couple injuries as well going on there. They are on a four-game win streak, but I just think right now where the Jazz are sitting, that they are the 4th best team in the league. Rudy Gobert, he's kind of, honestly to me, he's kind of overrated. But Donovan Mitchell is a beast by itself. Quinn Snyder, does his job really well with the depth. So I'm gonna stick with Utah Jazz at 4.
I like the Nets quite a bit too, Jason. I mean, that's my number 4 team because the talent that they have on that team to work with, as well as they're going to end up winning that Eastern Conference at the end of the day, no matter what. Anyway, they're 13-3 on the road, which is funny because they're going to only get better from there with Kyrie, I guess, once he's back. So the home record's 10-6, so 13-3 on the road, and I expect that to continue. 6-0 in the division and 17-6 in the conference. So the Nets just look like a good team to me, and they're, I think, going to eventually, as the year goes on, kind of become more cohesive and get things a little bit better. I just hope that they can figure out their whole COVID issue that they have going on with Kyrie.
Yep, I'm with you guys. 3 out of 4 of us, I guess. I got Nets at number 4 as well. I just think the talent's the way high, and again, projecting our rankings based on where I think they're going to go as far into the playoffs, I think the Nets will make a good run.
All right, so moving on to number 3, it is time for the resident hater of Arizona sports teams to put the Phoenix Suns as the third best team in the league. They've actually got the 2nd best record right now, just by half a game. They're number 3rd offensively, number 4 defensively, so they're a very balanced team. Devin Booker's numbers, they're actually a little bit down from last year, but he's still shooting at 45%. He averaged 25.6 points per game last year. That's down to 23. Chris Paul, his averages are also down from last year, except for assists. He's averaging 10 assists per game. My biggest problem is CP3. I mean, he's going to be 37 years old when the playoffs start, and we all know about his injury history. And I hope the guy can stay healthy, but I just can't trust that right now. And they just don't have enough firepower. They're a little bit top heavy. So, I respect DeAndre Ayton. He's having a great year, averaging 17 and 11, but I don't think it's going to be enough firepower to get out of the West. So I will have the Suns at number 3, even though I'm a hater.
Yeah, I got them at 3 as well. They lost 2 close recent games here, one to Memphis and one to Golden State. I just think there's more work to be done don't get me wrong, they're a great team. I think there's more work to be done to beat these really good, these good teams that are going to compete later on. So, kind of agree with you. There's not enough firepower on that team to quite put me at 2 or 1. So, I am going to go Phoenix at 3.
Yeah, guys, I have the Jazz here at number 3. So it's all about that offense out there in Utah. Won 4 in a row, 8 of the last 10 games they've won. And so I think they're going to be neck and neck right there with the Suns throughout the rest of the entire season. I just think there's a lot of firepower there in that team. And it's going to be tough to stop them once they get to the postseason. So that's a dark horse team. Once the playoffs roll around, it could get to the finals. So just something to watch out for. I like the Jazz as number 3 team right now in the league.
I got the Bucks as number 3. Mainly because I think the Western Conference is so strong. The real championship series is going to be for the Western Conference Finals. That's going to be where it's all at, and so Bucks are at number 3.
All right, let's move up to number 2. I've got the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks as the second best team in the league right now. They are the number 6 offense, averaging 111 points per game. But the defense for the Bucks, even though it's kind of average right now, we all know what they're capable of, and that defense is going to get better as we approach the playoffs. And I do have the Milwaukee Bucks returning to the NBA Finals. Not sure if they're going to win it, so I don't want to make that pick at this point in time, but they will make it back to the finals. I love their big 3. I love Middleton, Giannis, Drew Holiday. They're all great on offense. They're all 3 great on defense. And I also like the veteran leadership. That roster's been there before. They've got guys like George Hill, Brooke Lopez, Wesley Matthews. They're old, but they're not as old as the Lakers. So I do respect the veteran leadership on that team. So I got the Bucks at number 2.
I like it. Number 2, guys, Brooklyn Nets. The reason I have Brooklyn Nets there is they just fought off 3 weeks worth of COVID cases. They had Durant out, Harden out all the same time. Irving, of course, wasn't playing. So they were using a bunch of guys. Joe Harris got injured. There's a lot going on, and they're still 5th in assists per game and 9th in points per game. And to be that, to have all those guys out and still be in the top 10 for points and 5th, top 5 for assists, I think there's a lot to say about that. And they've beaten quite a few teams. So I'm going Brooklyn Nets. I mean, I know Jason was talking about continuity within the team. I think there is plenty on the depth side. I think that just maybe resolves around the big 3 right now for that. So I'm going Nets, number 2.
By the way, Jason, you're supposed to say it like this. Number 2.
Yeah.
How about those Phoenix Suns?
I felt like since I'm on vacation, you guys should have hired somebody to do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fiverr.
I was used to hearing on the countdown, hearing the voice come through, but that's all right. I had to do it for this one and this one only. As your, of course, Phoenix Suns fanboy over here. This is a team, speaking of continuity together and leadership. I mean, this is the ultimate team to me of guys who are all trying to do the right thing at all times. Maybe they're not the most talented of all teams in the NBA, but they'll play together great all year long. They know each other very, very well. DeAndre Ayton's one of the better young players in the league, and so is Devin Booker, obviously. I do have concerns about CP3 down the stretch of the season because we obviously saw him have issues in the finals last year. But I think right now this is still a team 26-7 on the season. They've won 7 of the last 3. I know they lost 2 in a row, but guys, before that they were just crushing teams. And I know they do have a kryptonite, right, Tanner? The Warriors.
The Warriors.
Which we'll get to in a minute.
It's not even a healthy Warriors either.
Yeah, I'm going with the Suns, and I'm a Phoenix lover, not a hater. So I've always liked them, and back to the Charles Barkley days, and so I think let's not forget this is the reigning Western Conference champions, and that in itself gives them experience. This is essentially the same team. That experience, I think, weighs heavy as to who's going to go deep into the playoffs. Unfortunately, the best 2 teams are both in the Western Conference. So I'm going Suns at number 2.
Number 1. Hey, I think we might all agree on this one. He just talked about the experience of the Suns, and that's great. But there's another team that might have a little bit more playoff experience and championship experience, as a matter of fact. That's the Golden State Warriors. They are a top 5 offense right now, and they're actually the number 1 defense. It's not something you always think about with some of these top teams. And they might actually have a healthy Splash Brothers coming up soon. I like what Draymond is doing. They're going to get James Wiseman back. Andrew Wiggins is playing great this year. And by the way, the third leading scorer on the team, his name is Jordan Poole. Probably not a household name, but he's averaging 18 points per game. So it just gets better and better for the Warriors. They're already the best team right now. So who knows what's going to happen once the Splash Brothers are back in full form. I got the Warriors at number 1.
Warriors are number 1, of course. Second in assists per game, and we know they like to pass the ball there. 5th in rebounds per game. Guys, look, this team, when they get these next 2 guys back, they're going to be one scary team to watch for. And they're going to start dominating guys. They lost to the Nuggets yesterday, but, I mean, that was by 3. Joe Kick, of course, had a great game, but I'm not too concerned about it. Draymond will be back from health protocol probably next week. So, guys, like, this team's back. This team is back to title form, and they'll be even better when they get the next 2 guys back. So, Golden State won.
Yeah, guys, here's the thing with the Warriors to me. They are my number 1 team, and because they beat the Suns now 3 times this season already. So the Suns are my number 2 team, obviously. So just that alone puts them above the Suns and makes them the top team in the entire league. And as well as what Jason said, they do have the best defense in the entire league, which is weird to look at that and see that because we all know them for their offensive scoring over the years. But now they're doing a great job, down in the paint. So the Warriors right now look like the most complete team in the league.
Yeah, it's got to go. We somebody's got to say it, but also I will. They're led by the best player in the NBA right now,
Mr. 3000.
So that says enough right there. But I'm a huge fan anyway. So, and I have to throw in again, we got a Jayhawk connection. Andrew Wiggins has played really well now that he's switched over to them. And but yeah, they are clearly several steps ahead of any other team in the NBA right now.
Nice. There's our first NBA topic of the season. How do you feel, Jason?
I feel great. It's you're going to see a lot of things change throughout the course of the rest of the season, but I think it's a good start with our top 5 rankings.
Very nice. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up the show today?
Nothing, dude.
No, nothing. Just get drunk. New Year's. Let's go. All that kind of stuff. I mean,
Everybody have a great New Year's. Thank you for following us this year, and we hope to see you around next year.
Holy hell, Tanner!
See ya,
guys.
Thanks, Troy, for hopping on.
Yes.
We appreciate you as always. Anytime you want to get on, man, just message.
Love it. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys. Get hammered.
All right. We'll see you all on the next one.
Cheers.
See you guys.